Welcome back. Super excited to have you. My name is Philippe Lundstedt. I'm known as the insurance guru because I'm going to show you the strategies and the secrets that the insurance companies, they don't want you to know. I really want to thank you so much for tuning in to part of the Medicare Mastery series through our Medicare Essentials workshop. Super important, super excited to have you here. Let's go ahead and get started because we're going to be talking about Medicare Advantage programs. In this video, we're going to be discussing Medicare Advantage programs. And it's so important to understand that there's a lot of confusion around Medicare Advantage. I'm going to clear it all up for you today. Medicare Advantage and Medicare Part C, they are the same thing. So when you hear ads or you hear people talking about, do you have Part C? And you might say, well, I don't think so. If you have a Medicare Advantage program, you've got Part C. Part C is Medicare Advantage. And what is Medicare Advantage? Medicare Advantage is another option that you can choose to help you cover the costs associated with original Medicare. So just to recap a little bit about what we've talked before in previous videos, we know that you get Medicare Part A and Part B on your red, white, and blue card that's original Medicare. We know that we need to get a prescription drug plan, right? That's separate from the Part A and the Part B. And then we also know that Medicare supplements could be a great strategy for you to use if you want to cover the 20% that Medicare doesn't cover. Now, it's important to understand that in the original system where you have original Medicare and they're paying 80% of the bill, and then you have a supplement that pays the other 20% of the bill, it's important to realize that you also need a prescription drug plan on top of that. So you have a prescription drug plan, you have a Medicare supplement, and you have Medicare, a 3-card system. Medicare Advantage is the other way of handling Medicare. And Medicare Advantage programs include everything. They include Part A, Part B, they cover the majority of the 20%, and they also cover Part D all in one program, so your prescription drugs. So some key features that exist with Medicare Advantage programs is they often include extra benefits like vision, dental, hearing, and even gym memberships. And depending on your situation and where you live, these things will even give you grocery cards to offset the cost that you're paying for food every single month. Now with Medicare Advantage, it's super important to understand that where you can get all these extra things, there are some limitations, and you need to understand what these limitations are so you have the right expectation when you're going into one of these programs. And depending on the area that you live in, there may be very, very wonderful Medicare Advantage programs that exist that you'll have access to. And if there aren't, we'll discuss that as well. You may be better off with the strategy that we talked about before, which are Medicare supplements. Something important to understand about either program that you choose, whether Medicare Supplement or Medicare Advantage, is that you're always going to be paying for your Medicare Part B as in boy premium. That $185 is going to come right out of your Social Security every single month without you even knowing it. It comes out before you even get the check. And if you're not drawing Social Security, the $185 is going to be sent to you in a quarterly bill from Medicare. Now we know on Medicare Supplement, there are premiums every single month that you must pay in order to have the supplement, and that's the plan that's going to cover the 20% that Medicare doesn't. Now Medicare Advantage programs are very different. They're on the other spectrum or on the other side of this, and there are no premiums on Medicare Advantage. At least the majority of Medicare Advantage programs out there have a $0 premium. And we're never going to show you a plan that's got a premium on it. We're always going to try to move you towards a premium plan of $0 when it comes to Medicare. But these plans, they include things like copays and coinsurance. So where you're not paying anything on a monthly basis to have this program, you will have what we call sharing cost or cost share. And those cost shares break down like this: copays. Copays are solid dollar amounts that you're paying for services. And coinsurances. Coinsurances are percentages of payment that you have to make towards certain costs. So outside the premiums and the co-payments and the coinsurance, you also have a thing called an out-of-pocket maximum. And the out-of-pocket maximum, it limits your annual costs, okay? So certain programs are $8,000, some are $5,000, some are as low as $1,900. But let me give you an example. Let's say your out-of-pocket maximum is $5,000. If for any reason you had multiple surgeries, diagnosed with cancer, and needed a transplant, and your bills were $1 million, you would only pay $5,000 and never a cent above that, because that's your max out of pocket and it's capped. It is by all means a financial security safety net built for you to keep you safe in case you incur major costs. Now, there are ways that you can actually get money to pay for these every single year. I'll discuss that in a later video. Don't worry, I'll remind you of that little key function, and that's a little tip and trick that we can send you later. Something outside of maximum out of pocket and co-insurance and co-payments that you need to understand is that these Medicare Advantage programs, they do have networks. Now, most plans are either HMOs or they're PPOs, and they do have certain network restrictions. I'm going to cover in another video the exact differences between HMOs and PPOs to help put a lot of clarity around what these programs are and the availability that exists. And there's a lot of trade-offs that exist between the programs. But really the biggest trade-off that you're looking at from Medicare Advantage to Medicare Supplement is much lower premiums, extra benefits, but slight more restrictions than what you'd have on original Medicare. So again, you could be saving a lot of upfront dollars because maybe you're not a heavy utilizer, right? This is important to understand. Philippe, where do I fit in with all these strategies? Well, if you only go to the doctor 3 or 4 times a year, and that it consists of a primary care visit, let's say you do the primary twice a year and you see your dermatologist twice a year. Well, let's use an example of an insurance program where your primary care is $0 and your specialist is $40. If you go to the doctor 4 times a year and 2 of them are primary, that's $0 out of your pocket. And if you go to the specialist twice a year, that's $40 each visit, which is $80 out of your pocket. And if you have no premium on the program, that's $0 a month. So your total cost to be on the program would be $80 a year, which is significantly lower than what it is on a Medicare supplement. Again, I'm not telling you not to get on a Medicare supplement, but don't let somebody scare you and say, well, if you need to go to a hospital, it's not going to be covered. That's absolutely not true. It's important that we meet with you and we get your exact information, your doctors, your wants, your needs, and your fears, so we can look at all the networks and make sure that whatever program you're choosing fits exactly what it is that you want. It's so important that you do that, and we always give you that availability on every video that we do. At the bottom, you're gonna see a link that you can click where you can book an appointment with one of our amazing brokers where we'll take your information, we'll ask you the right questions, and we'll strategize and tailor a specific strategy that works for you. Thank you so much for tuning in on this video, and I'll see you on the next one.